What's going on, everybody? Liam O'Reilly, Vermont Economic Realtor. Hope you're doing well. Vermont saw the largest, as a state, saw the largest year-over-year median home price increase since the Vermont Department of Taxes started tracking this data back in 1988. So we're going to get into that story. I wanted to talk a little bit about the general sentiment in the housing market, kind of what's going on, what that means for buyers and sellers in the market here in 2023, and then also the issues that need to be solved beyond housing here in Vermont, or just some more things to think about. So, getting into the first story, new data shows unprecedented jump in Vermont median home price. So an increase of 15% to 310,000. This is across the whole state. Now, if you're looking around Burlington, the Chittenden County area, you know that the median home price is in the 400,000s, as we've talked about on this channel. Median home price for new builds is up 21% to 555,000. Not surprising with the supply chain issues that have been going on over the past few years, with the lack of labor here in Vermont. I'm not surprised about that at all. So scrolling down a little bit to this chart that I wanted to highlight. So this goes back to 1989, where they saw the year-over-year increase from 1988. And something that I wanted to point out is there, at least in the past, there hasn't been a complete drop-off in the amount of appreciation that Vermont homeowners have seen. So, if we look back at the 2008 crash, leading up to that, we had a 10% year-over-year appreciation, 10% year-over-year price growth in 2005, then a 5% in 2006, probably 3 or 4% in 2007, and then it was flat in 08, followed by a slight decline in 2009. So it didn't just go from 10, 12% appreciation all the way down to negative in the next year. It took some time to get there. So, and it looks like it was that case for most of the data that we have. There was a pretty big drop off from 89 to 90, but it still didn't go negative. It'll be curious. I'll be curious to see what 2023 looks like. I don't anticipate home prices continuing to skyrocket like they did in 2022 or like they did in 2021. But looking at the historical data here, I don't think that that the appreciation is going to completely drop off a cliff either. I think we'll at least see some mild appreciation throughout 2023 here, which brings me into what the housing market is like now. I released a video about the Northwestern Vermont housing stats the other day, and I just wanted to update you on my experiences in the housing market. There's a handful of listings that I think are great listings, and back over the summer would have sold in a few days, multiple offers, gone very quickly. And now those listings have sat on the market for a little while, maybe a month, maybe 2 weeks. It feels like some listings are getting stale, that some listings are taking longer than others to sell. But then, we have this great listing on North Shore Drive in Burlington right now that has been on the market for a little while, but all of a sudden, after a few weeks on the market, we have a good amount of interest again. And it's just, the market is just different than it was before. That's something to keep in mind if you're a seller out there. You might not sell your home in a weekend, even if you have a great home and a great listing. But at the same time, you could get the multiple offers that you're looking for within that first weekend, and you could see things start to, it could be just like it was last year. There's a home in Stowe right now that is listed for just under 900,000 and has 4 offers in the first weekend. And it's hot. Some of these homes are hot. Some of these homes are taking a little while to sell, and there's no, at least from what I can see, there's not necessarily a rhyme or reason behind it. It's just kind of the luck of the draw. Some homes have a lot of interest. I think once you get that first offer in there, it really changes things. And when people see that they could lose the property, the buyer's mentality sparks up and offers start to flow in. Whereas if it's been on the market for a little while and things have, it's kind of, there's not a ton of interest, or there's not people jumping to put in offers, I think that makes buyers think that, oh, well, nobody else is making an offer. There's no real pressure to make an offer. I might as well wait, see if anything better hits the market, in the upcoming weeks, and maybe I'll circle back to it. And then once that first offer comes in, buyers rush in and start making offers again. So we're seeing a little bit of that right now. Something else I wanted to talk about was I was watching the Uneducated Economist on YouTube. He's another YouTuber. Was watching him this morning, and he was talking about the lumber market. Now he works in lumber sales, and he was talking about how the lumber market has these booms and busts to it, or at least has in recent years, where the you know demand for lumber will go down and deplete, and then all of a sudden, when COVID hit and everyone had these stimulus checks, demand for lumber skyrocketed. And uh, because of that, when demand was low, the mills and the production of lumber was also low. And then all of a sudden, with these stimulus checks, when the demand rose and people had all this money and they wanted to start building homes, putting decks on, doing these projects, the demand of lumber skyrocketed. And with the low supply, lumber became very expensive. And so a lot of these mills and these companies saw the premium that they could get for lumber at that time and started to ramp up production. And then as soon as you start to get production rolling, or maybe not right away, but a little while after production starts rolling, there's more supply in the market. There's demand starts to wane off, and now all of a sudden the price of lumber is well below its all-time high. Now I'm not, obviously I'm not a lumber expert, but that's what I got from him. And so I was thinking about that in relation to the Vermont housing market here. And there's certainly been a strong demand for Vermont homes ever since the pandemic. I mean, it when people started to work remote, a lot of people wanted to take the remote work to Vermont to get away from the noisy city, to be in more nature. So at the same time, that ramped up building production. So people could start to build, but it didn't ramp up production like it did in some of these other cities across the country, like in Vegas or Phoenix or Austin, places where it's easier to put in massive neighborhoods. Around Vermont, there's a lot of red tape in a lot of towns around Vermont where there's zoning restrictions, and people don't want, a lot of these towns don't want massive neighborhoods of new construction. So, and beyond that, there's only so many companies up here that have the labor and the capacity to really build efficiently and build swaths of neighborhoods and bring a ton of inventory to the market. So unlike unlike the lumber industry that's seen these ebbs and flows, right, where prices go up and builders start to ramp up, and all of a sudden, because of that brings more supply to the market, which brings prices back down, which makes it less profitable, which means that builders cut back, which restricts supply, makes things cheaper, and then all of a sudden when demand picks back up, the price increases higher. And part of the reason why we don't have the ebbs and flows here in the Vermont housing market like other markets do across the country is just because building can only ramp up so much. So, demand can start to decrease, and it probably will decrease in 2023 from what it did in 2022, from where it was in 2022. But even if it decreases significantly, we don't have a ton of inventory. We don't have a ton of supply on the market, and builders didn't ramp up aggressively. So because of that, we're likely to see prices remain stable. And when you look at the past of what's happened here in Vermont, you know, we haven't really seen any major declines in our housing market, but we've seen some major increases. Now, the last thing I wanted to touch on is it's pretty easy to just say, okay, we need more housing supply, and that's the solution. But I was talking with a friend who works at a school over the weekend, and she was saying that the school that she works at, I think it's a kindergarten or maybe a middle school, they had 300 students at the school before the pandemic, and now they're at like 400 or 450 students, and the classrooms are just overwhelmed. The buildings aren't built to handle the capacity of students that they need. So that really got me thinking that it's not all about making new houses and bringing more inventory to the market. Although that's something that we need here in Vermont, we need more housing to stabilize supply and make things cheaper for people who want to live here. If we're going to build more housing and we're going to make our community a more stable place, then we also need to upgrade our, our public systems. We'll need to expand our schools to accommodate the increase in student population, and we'll need to, build out our roads and our public transportation. And there's just our systems and the societies that we live in are much more complicated to just think that um, just building homes is the only solution. And that's something that I've preached on a lot on this channel is building homes, building homes, building homes. But there's a lot more that goes into it than just increase the amount of inventory out there. So anyway, Liam O'Reilly, Vermont Economic Realtor. If you're looking to buy or sell a home here in Vermont, all my contact information is listed in the description. Feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help you. Leave a comment on this video. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with what I say? Do you disagree? Always love to hear from you folks. Other than that, it is President's Day. Happy President's Day, and I'll see you in the next video.